The Laureate's born to fly, and the Guardians of the Galaxy are taking us to the Lakelands. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. We've got 4 brand new movies to talk about tonight that Van has seen. Of course, I haven't. So we're going to start with Born to Fly. I'm going to start by just telling you, Van, a bit of research on this. And I could find one main quote that was repeated a few times, and it says, Chinese Top Gun Maverick, a load of trash.
I mean, the first half of that is right. Chinese Top Gun Maverick. Load of trash? I could arguably, maybe, but you know what? Enjoyable trash, good trash. You got to remember, okay, first of all, this is a Chinese-made, a movie, a Chinese blockbuster. It is a directorial, it's a first-time feature for writer-director, I think it's Zhao Lu. So first-time feature as well. You wouldn't tell to look at it. Couldn't find much on this writer-director. I bet they have an advertising or visual effects background, though, given what I've seen here, because this looks sexy as hell. Right. So, it largely follows... largely follows a single young sort of Maverick-type character. Maverick being the name, not the archetype. You know what I mean? The Tom Cruise character in Top Gun. Named Li Yu. And he gets to join the new elite test pilot academy program that's effectively their version of Top Gun, specifically for test pilots. And this is all done within the sort of the auspices of the Chinese technological push to upgrade their defense forces. They want 5th generation fighters so that they can go toe to toe with the world and take on the foreign powers that keep trespassing across their borders. It's a very specific point of view, you know what I mean?
I do understand that part of it. I mean, one thing I'm already that I think is a bit of a shame. Why don't they ever make the pilot a female?
Right. First of all, there are basically naff all female characters in this movie. Right. Let me get to what's good about it first. So first of all, this is 2 hours and 7 minutes long, sir. And it does not waste a moment of that screen time. If there's 5 seconds going spare in this, you bet your arse they have crammed in another dogfighting sequence, another great bout of aerial acrobatics, everything in there. This is enough. This is enough to actually bring Don Simpson back from the dead. This movie, it's insane, and it really does want nothing more than to simply be Chinese Top Gun. And that's fine, because it's kind of plotless in that way that the original Top Gun is. You know, like Top Gun Maverick has sort of a ticking clock. We've got to get to the end, get to the mission, save the world. But obviously Top Gun didn't really have that. There's not really a plot to the first Top Gun. This is kind of like that. It's pretty plotless. But there's loads of like little mini character stories here and there, like the first Top Gun. It works. It's slick, it's stylish, it's cool, it's got that same kind of soundtrack. This is basically like a PlayStation generation Top Gun. Is the best way I can describe it. It's awesome. Having said that, it's about nothing. I mean, it may as well be a soft drink commercial at times. You know what I mean? Like literally, it's a diet soda of a movie. It's awesome soda. But it's got no added sugar. You know what I mean? There's nothing in. It's all chemicals. It's all formless in here. You know what I mean? There's not an awful lot going for it. As you say about the female characters, there are naff all female characters because that's just the mentality of this kind of a movie. It's very steeped in its jingoism, in that same kind of rah way that sort of Top Gun was, and Top Gun Maverick kind of. Amusingly less so in a strange way, but this has that same kind of jingoism going for it, and I went along for the ride with it. Like I say, it's crap, it's trash. You know what I mean? You said it yourself. It's trash, but it's enjoyable trash, and it's big IMAX scale. Let's blow some stuff up, kind of trash. So I'm down for that. It's a good time.
So. Let's do some comparison here then. We know, obviously,
okay,
and I'm a huge Top Gun fan anyway. So the original Top Gun, we know how that was. Filmed in the 80s, a lot of very clever camera work for the dogfights, etc. Then we move forward to the Maverick version of filming where they actually filmed in the cockpits. As we know, Tom Cruise, you know, he chose the cast that they all had to learn how to sit and fly and take the G-force.
Strap them in, didn't he? Yeah.
Whereabouts does this fall between the two of those? Are we talking real cockpit action, or are we talking it's a lot of action, but there's not a lot of it coming from the cockpit?
No, now, having not gotten a concrete answer on this myself, and just having watched the film, I did find myself sort of flipping back and forth on it. Well, how were they actually doing it? Now, I do believe that there is some practical filming at play there. They have put them in cockpits, I would say, for certain sequences. Nothing to the level of awe that we had from Maverick, though, because they looked like nothing else we'd ever seen. Those sequences. I will also. I mean, this has some practical filming, but there are some clear sequences where they have been the landscape behind them has been comped in, has been digitally comped in, and the planes themselves could just be CG. Like there's a lot to that, but you don't particularly feel it. It's not that there's never a noticeably bad effect that takes you out and be like, oh god, no, that's ruined the reality of that for me. There's nothing like that. You do find yourself quite immersed in it. It's worth noting, right? There is some aerial stuff in here. Like I said to you before we started recording, the Top Gun boy in you is going to go nuts for this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it is like just a subtitled Top Gun kind of Maverick kind of side piece. But there is stuff here like you've never seen before. Like there is a lot to the aerial sequences in this movie that just made me sit back and go, "Wow, I've never seen anything like that." And it just does genuinely dazzle. There's some stuff with sonic booms in flight sequences that I thought was really well done as well. Some of the aerial sequences in here, if I was going to give it a comparison as well, I'll also add the movie Stealth to that list from 2005, 2006 Stealth, because that had some awesome aerial stuff. Like until Top Gun Maverick, that was kind of the last great aerial, combat movie. This, I would say, this is more in line with something like Stealth than it is Top Gun Maverick. But like I say, it's a ride. It's a trashy, fun, enjoyable ride. Its heart is in the right place. It's serving the mother country. It's doing its job. It's arguably a little bit more righteous in its self-worth than, for instance, a Michael Bay movie, and I say that as a Michael Bay fan. I mean, if you can get past the subtitle barrier in your case, you're going to rock out to this.
Let's just quickly, because I'm a plane geek here, let's just quickly talk about the planes. And you might not know the answer to this because you aren't a plane geek, as far as I'm aware. Obviously, Top Gun, it was the Tomcat. What are they using in this? What is their future fifth generation battle plane?
I'm not sure if it's not an entirely original construct they've come up with for the movie, because I've never seen a plane quite like it.
That excites me more.
Yeah, it's a very distinctive looking stealth fighter that they have. And I've not seen anything quite like it before. It has like missiles that pop out, all the coolest little spots on it. Really cool. Like I say, it's called Born to Fly. It's on limited theatrical from today. Now, if Guardians of the Galaxy is sold out this weekend, because everyone's going to see Guardians, whether I say it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if anyone says it's good or bad. People are going to go and see Guardians regardless. This is for when those screens are packed out, and you think, do you know what, we're here, let's just see a movie. Go and see this one. And like I say, it's a ride, especially if you like Top Gun Maverick. Definitely go and see this one.
Well, there you go. Born to Fly, if you want to go and see it. We are going to be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in a bit, but next we're going to look at the movie called Lakelands, which is out in cinemas from today, and we'll see what Van thought of that next. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. So we're going to be looking at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in a moment. But right now, let's look at the movie called Lakelands, which comes out in cinemas from today. I get the feeling that this is quite a deep movie.
Yes, it's quite a deep, nuanced one, this one. So it's a new movie from writer-directorial team Robert Higgins and Patrick McGivney. And it centres around a young guy, like, maybe late 20s, early 30s, named Kian. It's an Irish film. It's set in Ireland. He's named Kian. Lives in a sort of small rural town in which he is like he plays for the local football club, like a low-tier professional footballer, like a jobbing professional footballer. He gets involved in an attack one night. He's beaten up outside a club whilst he's out drinking with his mates. And as he starts to come back from the injury, he starts to face complications in how he can, how his recovery will or will not enable him to return to the sport that he defines his life by, and at the same time also intersects with the reintroduction of an old love interest, an old flame, who returns to town, having absconded to London several years previous. She comes back into town to to see her family and catch up with the girls, kind of thing, and they start to rekindle their relationship. It starts them asking questions of quite what they want out of their lives. Have a listen. This is the general vibe. This is a bit, actually, this is kind of on the money for the vibe.
Lovely stuff. Can't have passengers this year. Need you leading by example.
Don't worry about me.
And don't give me reason to them.
People go away and then they think they're different to the people who stayed.
You've got such a chip on your shoulder against anyone that ever left.
If you hurt yourself again, it could result in permanent damage.
Did you get checked up?
They said it's fine.
You're not focused, Keen. You're all over the shop.
You can't play football. It's not the end of the world.
Can't even look after my own farm anymore.
Take the rest of the day off. Go on.
Firstly, I absolutely love the Southern Irish accent. It just suits that kind of tone really well. Secondly, is it a tearjerker?
Actually, no. It's not so much a tearjerker. I did find it moving. I did find it moving, not in like you say, as a tearjerker kind of a way, but I think it did have an emotional resonance that I found myself quite taken in by. The central performance here, now this is where I'm really, really going to make an arse out of myself, because I'm going to have to pronounce this name. Now, it's an Irish name that I have never said aloud before, and I want to say Iana Hardwick. It's E with an accent above A-double-N-A. Yana? I want to say
sounds about right to me.
As Cian. Absolutely tremendous performance in the lead. Now, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. He does, however, I think, get his thunder taken away, however, by Danielle Gallagher, who plays the old flame who returns to town. She just feels like he's very good. She's great. And you kind of know it within a few seconds of her entering a scene. And the pair of really good performances at the centre of this do power this emotional, very emotionally resonant, although not forwardly propulsive story. It's not a movie in which an awful lot happens. It is, it's quite soap opera-ish. It is very much a small-scale character drama, but I thought done really well. It's got a sense of immersive locale to it, in the way that it defines this small village, this small town that they all live in. You do feel sort of very taken in by the sense of the location. You're aware at any given time as to where everything in this town is, for instance, and how the boys have to abscond just 20 minutes down the road to actually get to the nearest pub, kind of a thing. It's, as far as Irish movies this year go, it makes a nice follow-up to the Banshees of Inisherin in that regard, I thought. But I think you like this, to be honest.
See, for what you've said, I feel that I would lose interest early on, because I think for me, I need a movie that grips me from the start and keeps me propulsed throughout the whole movie. Otherwise, I stop and then I find myself looking at my phone and flicking through TikTok and doing things that I shouldn't be when I'm trying to watch a movie. So I don't know whether I'd like this, and I've tended to avoid deep and meaningful movies since I hit 40 years old, because I find myself tearing up at such the easy, since becoming a dad, actually, I think it is. So I avoid them. Yeah,
it's the 40 thing. I mean, I'm 40 this year, so I think mine just set in early because I watched too many movies. But no, I say do you know what it is for me? I found really resonant was the element of, for instance, your central character Cian having to give up, face the idea of a life without football, something that has come to define his life. And obviously, for someone like me, for instance, I have film for that, that defines my life in much the same way that this is. So you get that sort of emotional hook, God, yeah, that's really hard. I almost cursed then. That's really cutting. That's really cruel. Ouch. You know, I did find myself going along with it. And, you know, also, I'm walking injured at the moment, so I'm a little bit kind of sore and emotionally tender at this moment in time. So yeah, it got me. I would say I was really taken in by. I think I'm gonna keep calling him Yana Hardwick. I think his performance is notably really, really great. But Danielle Galligan, MVP for me. I think she owns it. I'd keep an eye on her. I really would.
How long is it? Did you find yourself looking at your watch at all?
No, it's a tight and tidy 100-minute. Tight and tidy, like hour, 100 minutes, hour 40, I think it was. And yeah, it doesn't feel, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't feel dull at any point. I say, even though it's not a movie about an awful lot happening, you don't feel like there's nothing happening. You are taken in, you're engaged by it, you are brought into this story. And it's one of those times that actually say you've got a sort of simulation of what the Star Trek Hollow novel experience would actually be like. You're like, oh, I'm quite immersed in this, yeah.
Well, if you want to make your own mind up, you can, because it is in cinemas from today. Right then, it's the big one next. Well, as far as I know, it's the big one next. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Van went to the big screening, had a lot of fun from seeing his socials, and we'll talk all about that and what he thought of the movie in just a minute, so stay right where you are.
Now it's time for a segment we like to call Off-Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Van, what's going on?
Ain't nothing going on but the rent. You know how it is. To which end, it gives me great pleasure to thank our sponsors for this week at NordVPN. If you've never used a VPN, it's kind of essential. It's one of those essential things in my digital toolbox as I go through life. A program you run on your device that adds a layer of extra security to your location data and also protects you from scams and phishing and stuff like that. Now, NordVPN, one of the biggest on the planet. I use NordVPN myself. I use it because obviously you can change your location data and things. I use it for streaming platforms more than anything. When I have to access stuff that's on Paramount Plus in the US but not in the UK, I subscribe in the UK, I switch my location, a whole bunch of things. But it's so easy to use. You can connect with one click, or you can have set up like an auto connection where it just connects automatically for you. They're based in 60 countries, so you can scatter yourself all over the globe. It's the fastest VPN on the market, and it's on every major platform. So Windows users, Android users, iOS, Mac OS, Linux, apparently even Android TV. I don't have an Android TV, I'm more of a Roku guy, but apparently they're on Android TV as well. And so you can access streaming platforms from around the world, extra security, complete anonymity. You can give them a try over at nordvpn.com/offscreen. That's nordvpn.com/offscreen. And from there you may surf the web in complete security.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. All right then, let's do it. Straight to it. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Van Connor was lucky enough to go to the screening, which looked absolutely crazy from seeing his social media posts from the night. Talk to me.
Yeah, thank you for sourcing that, by the way.
I wasn't going to say that.
Credit where it's due. Thank you for sourcing that screening for me, Adam, because that took some BBC pull. Right. So yes, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is the third one, obviously, of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, the trilogy closer for this series. The Guardians have appeared in other forms. There is a canonical Christmas special that we had just this past season that was the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. I believe the animated shorts I Am Groot are MCU canon as well, and the Guardians, of course, also turned up in the last two Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, and what do you call it? The Thor one, the crap one, Thor: Love and Thunder. That was it.
Crap one.
The crap one. I'm sorry, but that now is the worst MCU movie, surely.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take a Quantumania. I'll take a Quantumania over Thor Ragnarok. Thor: Love and Thunder. Sorry, Ragnarok was awesome, and Thor: Love and Thunder is the movie that should have been like the best of all the MCU movies. It had everything going for it. But yeah, give it up to one Kiwi's vanity project. Eh? Anyway, so Guardians are back. This time around, the basic status quo is that the Guardians are based out of nowhere, which is the giant floating asteroid head of a celestial that they visit in this series sometimes. The Guardians now own that. That is now Guardians HQ. They are based there. Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, Chris Pratt. Get my Chris's straight, because we had Pine. When was Pine? Pine was in something recently, wasn't he?
Yeah, I do remember you talking about Chris Pine. What was it?
We talked about. He Dungeons and Dragons was Pine.
That was it.
That was it. Pine did Dungeons and Dragons. Pratt does Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes. Okay. So, and Pratt
that sounds like a
also
film in
Mario.
itself.
and Pratt was also Mario, obviously, as well recently. So, Star-Lord, Chris Pratt's character, he's now kind of down the dumps. He's all miserable and depressed because the love of his life is out there and doesn't remember who he is. She's got complete amnesia, so she might as well, just have forgotten she might as well be dead to him, effectively. Everyone he has ever loved has gone, as he sees it. What has he got to live for? So, of course, this kind of mopey sensibility then kicks him into high gear when there is an attack on the Guardians HQ by the gold villains from the last movie, Elizabeth Debicki's genetically engineered race, in which Rocket Raccoon is mortally wounded. He is going to die. Rocket has mere hours left. He is on the table. He ain't gonna last. So it's a desperate free-for-all to try and find any way to save Rocket Raccoon. And it very quickly transpires that the thing that might hold the key to, saving Rocket is in all of those cybernetic enhancements that he's had welded to his body this entire time that we've never really thought to ask any questions about. We've all just kind of taken it as just part of why there's a talking raccoon. It has been brought up. I think in the very first movie, they do mention that he was he'd been experimented on, but it's just never come up. So now it's going to come up. And this mission to find the source of the experiments that, gave us Rocket Raccoon also fling the Guardians headfirst into the crosshairs of the man responsible for those experiments, who has designs on something a lot more galaxy-changing. Have a listen. This is said mastermind.
You must find Counter-Earth familiar.
Counter-Earth?
I visited your planet many years ago.
Earth hasn't been my planet in a long time.
Your people had wonderful spirit. The art and music and literature were some of the finest in the universe. Earth would be a fabulous place were it not for the ignorance and bigotry.
Okay.
It inspired me to create Counter-Earth.
I don't care.
All of the good and none of the bad.
I don't need another speech by some impotent whack job whose mother didn't love him, rationalizing why he needs to conquer the universe.
I'm not trying to conquer the universe. I'm perfecting it.
Oh, that's a nice line, that is. I like that. What's the soundtrack like to this?
Amazing.
Thought so.
Absolutely amazing. There is, obviously the track list is out there in the world. It's because they kind of drop it as part of the ceremony now, as part of the Guardians movie. They drop it on social a few weeks in advance. I think James Gunn does the honors himself, and you can follow James Gunn incidentally on Spotify and get access to his shared playlists. And he's a hell of a DJ, that man. I did the very first Guardians press junket back in 2014, and I was already a fan of his by that point, but I fell in love with that man that day. What a guy. He is a proper legend, is James Gunn. And you know what? He's not skipped a beat. True to form, we have a James Gunn movie in every sense. And like all James Gunn movies, it's pretty damn good. It's got the heart, it's got the soul, it's got the funk. You know what I mean? It's got that swagger. It's got that. It's got the right playlist for it because it's pre-made for the movie, and there's a sequence with a Florence and the Machine track that I think just had buckets of tears just waving through our cinemas. The movie opens incidentally because the very first movie opened with "Come and Get Your Love" by Redbone, and kind of repopularized that song, gave that song an entirely new life. The second movie did Mr. Blue Sky and had a great sequence with the baby Groot.
Oh, ELO
to Mr. Blue Sky. This movie plays out. It literally opens by playing out over the origin story of Rocket Raccoon, and the song they use is again like Mr. Blue Sky in the last one, a very overplayed song. They use "Creep" by Radiohead. And in much the same way that Mr. Blue Sky is a very overplayed song, you would think, surely you can't get much new out of that. Yes, they do. They managed to find a whole new emotional level on which to make that song work. And that, in a nutshell, encapsulates exactly what's so brilliant about James Gunn and the music thing and the swagger that come through all of his movies. The man takes ingredients that shouldn't work. To use an example from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, you've literally got a sequence in which Kurt Russell and his son are playing catch. They're using an energy ball in that case. And in that movie, he played, I think it was played over, was it My Sweet Lord by George Harrison, I think, in that case? And you're watching it thinking, you've taken a really mawkish, cheesy, sort of, done-to-death thing, and you've found a way to recontextualize and add new meaning to that with the layering of pop culture and just this unashamed schmaltz. This completely unembarrassed, completely self-aware sense of heart. And that's what you feel a lot of the way through Guardians 3. I'd say it's got the laughs, it's got the tears, it's got the action. And those, I think, are the three staples that you need from this. I would argue that the holiday special maybe is not as big a canon as people would seemingly think it is now. This movie seems like it treads a fair bit of the same ground. Like, Quill now seems to have been depressed twice in a row, because the whole function of the holiday special was Quill's depressed, let's go and kidnap Kevin Bacon. This time around it's Quill's depressed, but we've got a mission, let's go on it. I will argue Chris Pratt gets the most acting he's had to do in this franchise to date. Like this is where he's really going for it, and it works. Like, fair play to him. I don't think anyone's ever calling Chris Pratt a bad actor. He's very good here. Bradley Cooper, though, as Rocket, gets to own this. It's a great vocal performance, and he's always been the very well. You wouldn't describe Rocket as a one-note character, but most of the character development with Rocket kind of got done on the last one. And going into the origin story and mining it in the way that they have, and particularly reaching the emotional denouement that they do with this character, because this is the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Of these Guardians of the Galaxy. There is room for other stuff. We can see other stuff. And yes, there are cameos from this franchise that obviously do reappear, so do look out for your staples of this universe. For instance, I'm not sure if Miley Cyrus is back in this one, because I know she was in the last one. But spoiler alert, we kind of knew this one long in advance. But yes, Stallone is back for about the same amount of screen time that he had in the second one. So they've got some of the requisite cameos. And as far as new additions to the cast go, I will say Chukwudi Iwuji, from Peacemaker, worked with James Gunn on Peacemaker. He's the team leader on that. I already liked as an actor very much, but here is going for that sort of very towering Shakespearean level villain. Like, he's single-handedly setting out to try and knock down the quote-unquote Marvel villain problem. I'll say, new fans, I think, maybe a little bit confused by some of the mythology, but they'll get it picked quick enough. This is certainly nowhere near as complex as the Star Wars movie, for instance. But I think fans are in for a hell of a ride. It's another 5-star effort. It's another 2 thumbs up. It's another make sure you take the Kleenex. It's another just plan your night around this. See this movie. It's great. It's one of the best Marvel flicks in ages. It's the one I've enjoyed the most since Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and I know I'm alone in liking that movie. But more importantly, it's the first Marvel movie in a long time that I've come straight out of and thought, God, I can't wait to see that again. Like, just I want to race back in and see that again. And I hadn't had that, I think, since the last couple of Avengers movies, I would say. Oh, No Way Home. I had it with No Way Home, actually. Tell a lie. But it's the first one since No Way Home, where I just can't wait to get back in that cinema and see that show again.
That's really interesting, and obviously good news for Guardians of the Galaxy fans, because quite often with franchises and sequels, they don't tend to get better and better, or even stay at the same level. But you'd say this is the same level as the first and the second?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think like they're less effective as they go on. I still think the first is a bona fide masterpiece. The second is a really, really good sequel. Still a 5-star movie, but not as good as the first. And this, I'd say, is the same again. Where it's not as good as the second. But they're all great movies. I think the real treat here is watching James Gunn's continued evolution as this sort of very singular pop culture auteur. James Gunn has now become who Joss Whedon was meant to be. That's the really interesting part of it. James Gunn has taken, he's fulfilled the Whedon prophecy. He is the chosen one, it seems. I also want to point out as well, we saw this in IMAX and they had some specially filmed intro with Chris Pratt and Karen Gunn for this. And it was, hey, you've seen this in IMAX, that's so great, sit back, relax, enjoy. They didn't show that intro in IMAX. They showed it in the center of the screen. In this, it's you had one job. You had it's like warning sign out of order. It's you had one job. You know what I mean?
Oh no, that's like being on an aeroplane and only be allowing your window shutters to be open when you're on the ground.
Exactly that, isn't it? Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So it's like it's like when I just that really blew my mind. But you know what? It didn't take away from just a really bloody great trilogy closer. And you know what? There is now an argument when someone says, what is the most consistent and brilliant movie trilogy? There is now a real argument. You can actually get away with being a smart ass and saying Guardians of the Galaxy. In the same way that for years you could do it with Toy Story until they made the fourth one that kind of ruined it for that. But you can now get away with saying Guardians of the Galaxy might actually be the best film trilogy. There, I said it. No regrets.
Well, you can make your own mind up. It is in cinemas already. It came out on Wednesday, if I'm right.
Wednesday, this one,
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to be back. We've got one more movie to review with Van Connor, and I think I'm pronouncing this right. Is it called the Laureate?
The Laureate. The Laureate? Like Poet Laureate. Laureate.
Oh, it's spelt differently to that, though. Poet Laureate.
Yeah, I think I misspelled it on the script.
Right, okay, fine. Your fault, then.
Me. Yeah.
All right, well, we'll talk about the Laureate in just a moment, so stay right where you are. Hello and welcome back for one last ride. We've got one more movie to look at, The Laureate. So that's out in cinemas from today. Van Connor has seen it already. I know nothing about this, so do you want to set the scene for us?
Do I? Oh, yes, I do, Mr. Ball. Right, so this is the story of the poet Robert Graves, played here for the screen by Tom Hughes, and it's about Graves' relationship with his wife and their shared girlfriend, an American author who comes to stay with them in the UK and whom both start to fall for. And before you can say Professor Marston and the not-so-wondrous women, you've got a full-blown polyamorous triangle on your hands. Have a listen to this scintillating show.
This talented husband of yours must write again.
Here's to a long, prosperous, beautiful partnership.
Two women under one roof. How do you find time to write? Laura and I are collaborators. Nothing more.
What are you after?
I could ask you the very same question.
Your friends don't respect me.
I think you are extraordinary.
I won't lie. When you read The Laureate as a title of a movie, I'm a bit meh. But after that, I'm in.
I mean, you shouldn't be. It's crap. But it's also...
No, you've ruined it.
It's also... Not to bury the lead there for you. Also, if we're talking about deceptively unsexy movie titles for sexy movies, I am just going to point you to the existence of the movie Secretary and drop the mic right there. So never judge a book by its cover, and don't judge a movie's sexiness by its title. This is a decidedly unsexy movie, has to be said.
Oh,
right.
No.
We were talking about Born to Fly, and you talk about trashiness. This is a movie that, and I feel almost bad saying this aloud. Right. One of its female leads is Diana Agron. From Glee. You remember when they tried for 5 minutes back in about 2012 to make Diana Agron a thing, except it very quickly turned out there really wasn't much of a thing to Diana Agron, so they just kind of gave up. It's what we call an Alex Pettyfer play. You know, it just didn't quite pan out. They tried to ram that down our throats. It didn't quite pan out. And I'm saddened to say that in the intervening years, she has not gained any thespian clout, shall we say. This very much does feel like someone from Glee starring in an Edith Wharton adaptation, with Tom Hughes, who, you know, one of those, you know, British Assembly Line drama school actors who's just born to play period piece figures. You know, perfectly suited to this. Very stuffy. It's got the right show, chaps, yes. And he's starring opposite Laura Haddock, Guardians of the Galaxy alum, Laura Haddock, Star-Lord's mum, who is just better than this material. I mean, she's trying to bring some respectability to it. He's bringing the stiffness, pun intended, and then you've got Diana Agron, kind of just bringing the Valley Girl to the room. And what you're left with is just a chamber piece. That, do you remember that old Family Guy gag in which the Family Guy does a bit where they joke about British porn? And you have one character, they actually show you one character talking to another. You know, Marjorie, we could be having sexual intercourse right now, but let's not. Very much that. No. You could kind of hear it in the clip, couldn't you? Like, could you not? You could pick up that vibe from the clip. Yes, it's very much. I'm going to modify. I'm going to demonstrate the chasteness of the scene by unbuttoning my cravat at a very leisurely pace. You know, it's one of those kind of a movies. I mean, there's some attempts at, like, you know, at nudity and sensuality here that just fall completely flat. There's nothing to this. And,
is there anything positive you would say about this?
It inspired me to want to revisit Professor Marston and the Wonder Women from 2017, which was the exact same story about the guy that created Wonder Woman. He was played for the screen by Luke Evans. I'm trying to remember. I think Rebecca Hall was his wife, and their mistress was Psycho Ex-Girlfriend from the 50 Shades adaptations. And a really great movie that people slept on that one. And yeah, they really should see it. It's a really good one. And a better version of this same ruddy story. So go and seek out Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman and avoid, you know, Professor Graves and the kind of average women, if we're honest.
So I'm guessing that was the longest 90 minutes of your life.
Was it 90 minutes? Hang on, I want to check that. It wasn't 90 minutes. It was 104. It was 104 minutes, and I resented it. I resented it for those, you know. Although, I forgot to tell you about this earlier when we were talking about Born to Fly, because we're getting to the end of the show. So, in conclusion, looping this back, as it were.
Okay.
Talking about how, you know, 104 minutes. I want to talk about 7 or 8 seconds. Not even that, maybe 3 or 4 seconds of cinema this week that genuinely blew my mind. And it was in Born to Fly. And it was a sequence. I want to point out. Right. Born to Fly ends, right? Its story ends. And then they just go and chuck on an entire other action sequence. It's brilliant. For no reason. They just bolt on us. Do you know what? We've got more screen time. Chuck another action sequence in. And they do. Like, it ends and they just have another action. Like, do you want a cherry on top? Do you want to do dessert? We're not doing post-credits. Just have another action sequence. And they do. Like a full 10-minute long action sequence.
Completely meaningless.
Yeah. I mean, they managed to sort of crowbar it into the narrative. But like, I feel like you could have ended this movie like 10 entire minutes ago. I'm not faulting you for doing this. It's awesome. Right. But to get to that action sequence, right? That action sequence takes place at like a military demonstration. Okay? And the previous scene is on an airbase, right? Now, conventional wisdom and logic would tell you, right, that to get from that airbase to that military demonstration, we as the audience would be presented with a simple transition, a single cut, one might say. Maybe, if you wanted to be flashy, some kind of a swipe, you know, or something like that. Oh no, not Born to Fly, my friend. No, not at all. Born to Fly dedicates, I'm gonna guess, maybe 3 to 4 seconds, right, of its screen time. Instead of simply transitioning, cutting between scenes. No. It tilts its camera to the sky, shoots off into orbit, wraps itself around the nearest satellite it can find, slingshots back to Earth, and just lands right in the middle of an aerial formation going into that military display. The whole thing takes 3 to 4 seconds, probably cost more than any home you or I will ever own to make. And it was just...
I love that.
Chef's kiss. #cinema. You get a full Scorsese for that one. What a movie. That is Born to Fly. That is in cinemas this weekend. Chinese Top Gun, but trash, I think you said it was described as.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Seek out Born to Fly. This didn't... Why do a transition when you can literally go into orbit and slap back? That is filmmaking at its finest right there. And in a Chinese propaganda movie, no less. Hats off to you. Hats off. Now, that's how you do it, son.
I absolutely love the sound of that. And, you know, because it's so similar to Top Gun, and I'm such a Top Gun massive fan, I might even put the subtitles to the side for this one and just give it a go. Because, you know, I've got a feeling I'm going to enjoy it. So,
if it wasn't subtitled, they wouldn't get away with half of the absolutely terrible dialogue that they do. Because there's some absolutely terrible, terrible dialogue on offer here. But it works kind of within the context. It's a subtitled movie. I kind of accept something got lost in translation. It's fine. But you know what? Speaking of lost in translation, next week there is a movie out. And we're going to be talking about this. It's called Love Again. Okay. And it stars Priyanka Chopra Jones. But, and Sam Heughan, I believe as well, from Outlander, aka my mum's favourite show ever, I think. It's very much smut for the mums, that one, I think. Like a time travel romance thing, Outlander. But You Again stars the hunk from that show, Love Again, stars the hunk from that show, Sam Heughan. And they are not the big star appeal, though. The big star appeal is none other than Celine Dion, who's playing a fictionalized version of herself in what looks like a spectacularly trashy rom-com. I've seen clips of her acting. She is terrible. I can't wait, sir. This is going to be awesome.
Oh my God, this is going to be like Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones all over again. I'll look forward to hearing what you say about that next week. We're also going to look at Brainwashed Sex Camera Power. Now, what is that about?
I believe this is a documentary about exploitation in the industry. I wanted to see this at LFF last year, but I think there's a schedule clash, which always seems to bloody happen with me in the LFF. It's the thing, you can't cover festivals and be a week of release critic. It's impossible. Anyway, but yeah, so I was robbed of seeing this. I've really been looking forward to it. Curzon have got one out next week, Plan 75 as well. The fact that it is a Curzon movie always tells you good things. Cine Asia, Trinity label, who are handling Born to Fly, releasing Born to Fly this week, are also back next week with, I believe this one's a Chinese drama called A Light Never Goes Out. We have the drama The Eight Mountains, but all of this is just preamble, chump change. This is all kibble and bits compared to what I'm looking forward to next week. None other than the gang, all reuniting for book club The Next Chapter. Diane Keaton and the posse are back. Gimme some of that Jane Fonda, ladies. Come on. Mary Steenburgen in the house. I can't wait for book club 2. I'm a huge fan of book club. So, the book club are back, and this time they're going on holiday. Give me some of that Candice Bergen love. I can't wait. Have you seen book club? You must have seen book club. Have you seen book club?
No, I don't think I have, no.
Oh, man.
I love Jane Fonda, though.
You got to. And she just plays Jane Fonda now in everything, and she does in book club as well.
Yeah.
Seek out book club. I think it is on one of the streaming platforms. Do watch that. We'll talk about the sequel next week, book club The Next Chapter. So to everyone out there, do go and see Born to Fly if you get the chance. It is just breathtaking at times, but Guardians ends the trilogy on a nice note, and the book club are back next week.
Well, we will be reviewing those next week. We'll see what Van has to think about those that he gets to see in between now and then. Well, that's all we've got time for this week on Off Screen. We will be back next week. Until then, I've been Adam Bull.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.